What's going on, guys? Hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about an opportunity that might be able to 2x our money, right? So let's start off with this tweet, right? So basically this tweet was the reason I was exploring this. So Grayscale is exploring the option to return capital to GBTC shareholders following several denied Bitcoin ETF applications, right? So obviously I've been following GBTC. I know what it is for a long time already, right? So basically this article is the one that caused me to think that, hey, maybe there is a trade here, right? So if we read through the article, basically one of their options is to buy 20% of the outstanding GBTC shares, which are currently trading at a 49 discount to net asset value, right? So what does that mean? Net asset value basically means, let's say I have $1 in a bank account and I issue these shares to sell these dollars, right? Same concept, but different instruments, obviously. So currently, my $1 in the bank account is actually trading on the stock market for 50 cents, right? Or 51 cents, right? So what are the reasons for it? Obviously, because some people are questioning whether the dollar is even there. Some people are thinking Bitcoin is a smelly place to, store your money. So let's get out as fast as possible, especially after the FTX collapse, right? So it's quite important to know when you're putting out a trade, what caused the decline, right? So you can know that what will cause the rebound as well, right? So basically, what they're saying is, because the SEC is rejecting their spot ETF multiple times, so they want to return capital to shareholders, right? So actually, I think reading between the lines, I think the main reason they want to do this right now, only 20%, right? Why not buy out the whole 100%, right? But the reason is because they want basically the net asset value to return to break even, right? That is reading in between the lines, that is what I think. So obviously I have mentioned the crypto industry is obviously in a low spot after the FTX collapse, right? And basically the FTX collapse really caused this to sink, right? So during 2021, actually it traded at a premium, right? What this means is those institutions that couldn't get a hold of spot Bitcoin because of how their funds are structured, once again, are buying this GBTC, right? And also Three Arrows Capital, FTX, all these collapsed exchanges, right? So what happens after that? Because there's a liquidity squeeze, right? Everyone needs to dump this GBTC, right? Because Three Arrows Capital, they're holding GBTC. They need liquidity, so they are dumping it. So you can see the effect throughout here. And we're here today, right? So if you take a look at GBTC, there's no pre-market. So obviously I can't see how this news is affecting the pre-market. But I presume if people actually believe this, that it's going to start climbing, right? And one thing to mention is that on Grayscale's page, actually they have not mentioned this, right? So this is actually a rumor, right? So at this point in time, obviously this is just a rumor, right? But I think we always need to read between the lines, right? That is also how I got out of FTX before the collapse, and that is how I'll continue to do things in the future, right? Because if you don't read between the lines and you wait for the official statement to come out, by that time the alpha is gone, right? So the money to be made is already over, right? And then it's high risk and low return, instead of currently is actually high return and low risk, right? So next I want to take a look at who owns the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, right? And it's owned by this company named Digital Currency Group, which is basically a behemoth that owns Genesis, which is basically facing some fire right now, which is also part of the reason why this fund is trading 50 cents to the dollar on their net asset value, right? Because one of the sister companies are made potentially insolvent, and all this uncertainty is flying around, right? And then you look at CoinDesk parent company, and it's also DCG, right? So putting on my tinfoil hat, I would say that, there is a good chance that this is just put out by actually Grayscale, right? By people that are, they want to work the talks, right? And again, I described why they want to put out an official statement. Maybe they don't actually intend to do this, but they want to see how the markets react, right? Because if I put out an unofficial statement and this Grayscale Bitcoin Trust basically starts to climb, right, they don't actually have to do what they say they do, right, to get the effects that they want, right? So right now, their incentives are not actually aligned with, buying back all these shares, right? Unless it continues trading at this kind of discounts, and then potentially they think it's a good opportunity to move some cogs, right? Because basically, this Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, they charge a 2% fee every year, right? So that you can see, maybe they are not pushing the ETF as hard as possible, right? Because the ETF will have a less than a 1% fee, right? So some food for thought there. So I can't cover everything, but I think this is pretty good baseline knowledge of what the trade is, right? So as for whether the money is actually there, Coinbase has actually come out and confirmed that they hold at least 10.2 billion of Bitcoin on behalf of Grayscale, right, which is the bulk of the Bitcoins, right. So where is the trade? So now let me describe the trade, right. The trade is very low risk and high potential return, right. So I would put the potential return at 2x, because obviously if it goes from 50% net asset value to 100% net asset value, then it will double, right. And then the risk is that Bitcoin might fall during the time that this takes to play out, right. And that is one of the reasons why I didn't explore this trade earlier, right. But when I see that there might be some catalyst on the horizon, then I have to pay more attention, right. So Bitcoin might drop in half, and basically your margin of safety is gone, right. Because right now the margin of safety is because of this disparity with net asset value, right. Another thing is obviously the money is not there, right. But as you can see, Coinbase, a public listed company, has come out and said that we actually have all these Bitcoins, right. So if you don't believe them, then better not to touch this trade, right. So those are the two risks. So the return is obviously you can double your money when they decide to put in a catalyst, right? So I think a few things to note is that they don't actually have to do all these things, right? All these companies and politics are also like the Fed, right? They can say something that causes the next domino to fall, right? So for example, they can say that, maybe 2 years from now, we will give out all the Bitcoin if we don't have a spot ETF yet, and instantly the price will raise towards I think 90 something percent, right? Obviously it won't reach all the way to 100% probably, because people are still wondering, are they actually going to do it or something like that, right? Much like merger arbitrage, right? Why there is that arbitrage is because of the slight uncertainty that people are trying to price, right? So one more thing to also think about is also the financing, right? Because obviously if they want to buy let's say 20% of the outstanding GBTC shares, it will cost, give or take, 1 billion, right? So whether they can get the $1 billion is also up in the air, but I think it'll be quite easy for them to get it as long as the Bitcoins are actually there, right? Because what can they do is they can basically either leverage a Bitcoin, which I wouldn't suggest they do, or more likely they will sell the Bitcoin, right? So that is also another risk with this trade, right? Because they will need to liquidate the Bitcoin, right? And that will cause a downward pressure on the market, right? Because $2 billion of Bitcoin is around 1% of the Bitcoin market cap, right? So it depends how long they have to do it, right? If they have, let's say, 2 months, then it'll be no problem, right? Because you can just liquidate slowly and it'll be no problem, right? But if they say, we're going to liquidate quickly, or we have an OTC desk to liquidate, that will also not affect the price, right? But if they liquidate on the open market quickly, then probably you might, even if it goes from 50% net asset value to 100%, you might only get maybe a 80 to 90% return because of the drop in Bitcoin prices itself, right? So for the people wondering if I'm personally doing this trade, the answer is probably. It's looking incredibly likely, right? Because this is the kind of trades that I like to get involved in. Basically, it's low risk, it's high return. It's literally the most hated trade right now. Like crypto, everyone, don't talk to me about crypto, right? Everyone and their mother hates you at Thanksgiving table already, right? So please don't talk about crypto, right? So that is also one reason. So potentially if Bitcoin climbs, I also stand to benefit, right? But I'm not so much looking at a Bitcoin climbing as much as a catalyst coming in and basically this returning to net asset value. So that is the main focus of my trade, right? So to me, I think this is the biggest factor, right? Knowing all of the risks, right? Obviously you don't know what you don't know, right? But from what I can see, I have all the angles covered, right? Basically, I don't think that Coinbase is running a fraud. So I think the money is actually there, right? So if I think the money is there, the only thing I have to worry about really is that whether there will be a catalyst to come that push this net asset value back up to 100%. And the second thing to worry about is whether Bitcoin will get halved during that time, right? Like the time that it takes for the catalyst to come up to move it back up to net asset value, right? So obviously, to me, it looks very low risk, right? Because Bitcoin has been sold into the whole year, right? So if there's any upside, once again, I'm repeating myself, right? But if there's any upside there, I also view it more to the upside risk rather than the downside risk, right? But this is just on a balance of probability, right? Because if there's a massive recession, can Bitcoin go to zero? I'm not sure of that question also, right? Zero, probably not, but can it go to 4,000, 5,000? I think maybe the answer to that is actually yes, right? because during a massive recession, people will question, why do I just have this digital thing that I can't do really anything with, right? But we'll see. So these are just my thoughts at the moment. Obviously, if there is any new information, I will likely react, and also I'll keep you guys posted, right? I'll make videos on topics that I have talked about to update you guys. So this is a pretty simple trade. I would think that even very beginner can understand this, right? Is that the assets are actually trading 50 cents on the dollar, and for the various reasons I've explained, right? So as I was editing the video, I was thinking, right, why is DCG making this push right now, right? And then I remembered, right, DCG actually owns a lot of GBTC, right? So I'm not talking about the Grayscale company, right? Because the Grayscale company is one entity that DCG basically owns, right? And I know it's very complicated. I was also confused when I was thinking about this, right? But actually, DCG owns Grayscale, and Grayscale issues GBTC, which DCG also bought because of the Three Arrows Capital collapse. They bought up some there. They had some previously and all that, right? So the only way you can get money out of GBTC, right? Because you can't have the Bitcoin, right? You can't just take out the Bitcoin, right? Because if you wanted to do that, you would have to let everyone do that, right? Like every GBTC holder can basically take out one-to-one Bitcoin and their GBTC value, right? Which is not what they want to do, right? But I remembered that they actually, maybe they are trying to create liquidity so they can sell their GBTC, right? And actually get $1 worth for $1 of Bitcoin, right? Because if you know you are sitting on 50 cents on the dollar, right? Let's say you know you have something that is trading on the market for 50 cents, but it's worth $1, right? If you know that, why would you sell it, right? You wouldn't sell it, right? Unless you are squeezed to. So now they have to find a way to get the 50 cents back to $1 so they can sell it, and then they can bail Genesis out, right? So that is also a theory that I have in mind that I just thought about as I was editing the video, right? So at this point in time, I don't have the exact number of like how many GBTC does DCG actually own, right? But I do believe it's a substantial amount, right? Because the Three Arrows Capital collapse, they built Three Arrows Capital out, right? So they bought out some of the assets. I remember that Three Arrow Capitals actually own a lot of GBTC, and then previously they have been buying, and you can see all this, right? So DCG authorizes additional 500 million, stuff like this, right? So it leads me to believe that this is actually what they are trying to do, and they actually have a lot of GBTC, right? That they are sitting on a gold mine, but it can't be monetized, right? And they need to monetize it right now, right? So that is why all the moves are happening right now. So this is what I'm thinking. So that's about all I wanted to share today. If you did enjoy the video, do help me smash up the like button, hit subscribe, and also hit the bell button. With that being said, have a fantastic day ahead, and peace out.